You want some real, and to have a good time. Put a smile on your face, yeah. KB Cam and Elation Radio. Even brighten your day and help you through the night. Bringing you good music. KB Cam and Elation Radio. And here's your host, KB Cam.
Lady Michelle. I know what you've been through. You've been through. Don't think that it's only you. Only you. Yeah. Pick your head up, get up. It's only right. Take back your life. Pick your head up, get up. Take back your life. And come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out loud. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out your mouth. Hey, speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Don't look back. No, I don't care. Speak your peace in your atmosphere. Speak your peace in your atmosphere. Don't look back. Don't look back. Come and talk to me. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out loud. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out your mouth. Hey, speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace.
Hello, Thriver Nation. How is everyone this evening? I'm so happy to be here. Another week has gone by, and I am your host, Lady Michelle, and you are listening to Speak Your Peace with Lady Michelle. This platform right here that we have for you is centered around the education of domestic violence, toxic relationships, the different forms of trauma. We're going to talk about some self-love, talk about finding your voice, and, you know, these are just a few things that we tackle here. We touch on everything here. We peel back the layers of trauma and domestic abuse. Want you all to know, before that, y'all know I got to make a disclaimer. But before I make my disclaimer, I want you to know that we... All right, we had a little bit of technical difficulty there, but that's all right. We are here. We know. Let me tell you something. This topic here tonight is so deep and it's so needed in the community. That's why we just had that technical difficulty like that, because the enemy does not want us to talk about this topic, right? So let me get all my little things out the way. I'm going to get everything out the way. We know we designed this show with you in mind. We want to enlighten you. We want to educate you. We want to inspire you. And we want to empower you, right? And listen, now, this is real triggering tonight's topics. I do want to put that out there. I want to start off by saying that. And I want everyone who's listening tonight to check in with yourself, okay? So if you find that this is a little bit too much for you, if it's a little too heavy for you, and you need to, like, step away from your device, or if you need to, just hang up, maybe you can't take it anymore, I want you to take care of yourself. I want you to do that. I want you to step away. Because we're going to be talking about some things that, may spark some things in you that maybe you suppressed, or maybe it still pains you to think about it. But I really wanted to do this topic tonight because it is well needed, all right? Now, on this show, we do not do any therapy sessions, but we certainly do advise you to get therapy if you need it. And so let's just jump right in it. We'll get into the other things a little later, but I really want to just jump right into this topic. And so my guest tonight, she lives in Philadelphia with her husband. She is, and her husband is her childhood sweetheart. That's amazing. She obtained her MBA from the University of Phoenix and works in the healthcare industry. She loves spending time with her children and her grandchildren, and her hobbies include reading, and that's anything and everything. She loves reading. She doesn't care what it is. She wants to just read it, right? She loves writing. She loves camping. She says, or rather glamping, and vacationing in Jamaica whenever possible. I want to introduce to you this woman of courage, O'Mara. Hi, O'Mara. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Lady Michelle. Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here tonight. We had a little bit of technical difficulty. That's all right. But this topic that we're talking about, this is something that needs to be talked about. And so we're going to just dive right into it. Are you okay with that?
I am okay with it. Let's go.
Okay. And I want you also to check in with yourself as well. I know while I was reading your book, I had to check in with myself. And there were times reading the book that it brought up some things that I had never talked about that happened to me. And the person who actually did those things to me is no longer living, but I never addressed it. I never addressed it to my mom. And so we're going to talk about that. The name of your book is I Should Have Told. Now, that title right there just says a million things. I should have told, right?
Yes.
Tell us why you wrote that book.
So the title, I came up with the title because, after all these years, I felt as though I should have told, but I didn't. And there were so many reasons, and I think the main reasons why I didn't tell was maybe out of love, but not love for myself, more love for my grandmother. And in order for me to even begin to answer that question, I have to tell you a little bit about her. So my grandmother to me was bigger than life. She was the love of my life. She was the one who was always there for me, always took care of me, but also the one that always protected me no matter what. She was very strict, very, her attitude was more of, listen, you're going to respect me. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do, but I gained my respect, and you're gonna respect me. And in the community where we lived in Puerto Rico at that time, she was very well respected, whether she was liked or not. You didn't tell her. She was someone that you looked up to. She helped you, but you did not play with. And I knew this. I knew that no matter what happened to me, she would be the one to take care of it. She would handle it. But as things were happening, and I'm not going into too much detail, as things were happening between my confusion and other feelings, I knew that if I were to tell her, she would handle it. And that scared me. So, again, I think that one of the reasons that I never told was out of love, but it was more out of love for her, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. While I was reading that, I realized that I had did the same thing. I did not tell. And the reason why I did not tell, too, and this is, I get this from reading your book, that this is a part of yours as well, is that we're not protecting those who've done the bad deed to us, but we are protecting our loved ones, our family members, because we know that they're going to handle it, right? We know that they're going to take care of the situation right away, but for fear of they're going to be away, they're going to be in prison, or they're going to, something bad is going to happen to them, and then we will feel like it was really all of our fault. So we simply suffer in silence, right?
Correct. And even at an early age, so this book is written from a 5-year-old's perspective. My thoughts, my feelings, my things that I remember. And it's a shame that as a 5-year-old, I recognized the fact that maybe it wasn't my fault, but I also recognized the fact that if I were to tell and she were to handle it, I may lose her. So, it's such a strong feeling or mixture of feelings for a 5-year-old to decide, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to handle this without getting my grandmother, the person that takes care of me, in trouble? Because if she's in trouble, what's going to happen to me?
Right, exactly. And then your grandfather as well asked you some questions, and we'll get more into that, but he did ask you some questions because he was prepared to handle the situation right away. And you lied to him because you told him everything was okay.
Yes.
And go ahead.
Yeah, and it was scary because, so, here is a man of power in our little town. It was only one prison in the town. He was the oh God, I forgot what you call it, but he was the one who gave the orders. He took care of everything, and he had his concerns about this babysitter that I had. But the only reason that I was with that babysitter was because there was no one else that could take care of me while my grandmother worked. So his concerns were, are you okay? Are you happy? The one time where I told him I don't want to be there anymore, it concerned him. Why aren't you happy? Why don't you want to be there? What happened? And I was so close to telling him. But then I remembered, wow, he takes care of all these prisoners, and he's the warden. I'm sorry, that was the word I was looking for. He's the warden of the prison. He takes care of all these prisoners, very well respected. And what will happen if he arrests these people? Or is he going to arrest them? At that time, I was like, no, he has a weapon. I don't think he's going to arrest them. I'm his little girl. I'm his first granddaughter. And I decided to take the chance and not tell him because I was scared that instead of, being the warden now to try and protect me, he would be one of the prisoners.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So I
gotcha.
can tell. Yeah.
So without going into the gory details, because I tell you, reading this book really, it's a really good book. It is written very well, but it's such a shame that things like this are happening all around us, to our children, to our babies. Because at 5 years old, you are a baby. And so when I first started reading it, I'm on chapter 1, and you are describing the babysitter. Before her husband even comes into the picture, you're describing her. You're describing the home. You're describing the setting. And already I knew that she was a victim as well. I already knew that because you could tell by the way that she was interacting, the things that she did, the things that she did not do, the things that she said, the things that she did not say. You could tell by her personality that she was a victim of domestic abuse as well, right?
Yes,
you didn't know that.
Right, and at that age, I would never have that she was also a victim. You know, in my eyes, I question the fact that why is this lady, doing, and I remember, her doing the same things every day, cooking, cleaning. She was quiet. When her husband, the very few times that he came into the picture, she's preparing his meals and making sure that he's okay without even him asking. To me, it was like, well, how does she know? How does she know how to do this? Why is she doing this every time? And then, it was one thing when I did hear him speak, or when I saw him, her behavior was that of someone that pretty much stayed away or let him do whatever, let him say whatever, but she would never get involved. And I guess that's the correct word. She would never get involved. And I did not understand that as a child. I'm like, why are you not speaking? Why are you not answering? I'm asking a question. There's a part in my book where he says, hey, come with me. And I'm looking at my babysitter for permission. Give me permission. Can I go? Can I not go? Should I go? Should I stay? And she ignored it. She totally ignored it. So it was like, okay, well, I guess the decision is up to me. He asked me to go somewhere and presented a very nice picture of something that I was interested in as a child. I'm curious. But she didn't say don't go. She didn't say stay. She didn't say nothing. So I made my own decision, and I went to go see what I wanted to see, what he was offering me that I wanted to see as a child. And I think as a grown-up, now I understand her silence. I didn't at that. At that.
Yes. Your book is about the loss of innocence. But your book is also about strength and resilience. And I like that as I went through the book, I saw you, even though you were becoming very mischievous because of what was happening to you, you got a little spicy, you got a little, with your grandma. But I saw you get strength too. I saw you become resilient. I saw you say, hey, I'm not going to allow this to happen to me anymore. Talk about your feelings. Tell us why that transition. You went from fear to mischievous activities to strength and resilience. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I think even before the fear part, so I was always happy, joking, laughing, friendly. I was friendly, and one of the biggest things that I was trusting. I trusted everything. I was curious. I wanted to know about everything. And I love to hear stories. I love to watch people. I love to talk to people, whether I knew them or not. So when these things began to happen to me, you know, I was very confused. I didn't know why it was happening. I didn't understand what was happening. And I think that I became not only curious, but I became angry. And in my anger, which I didn't understand, that, you know, I was becoming angry because I didn't know why this was happening to me. You know, I became rebellious. I was mischievous. You know, I'm always curious and mischievous in a good way, playing jokes and, you know, laughing, joking around. But I realized that my mischievous became bad. It became bad. It became angry. I was angry. So any little thing that hurt me, I felt as though I had to hurt it back. That's the only way that I have to stop it. If you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you back. And I didn't think of consequences. I don't even think I knew what a consequence was. It was more of, okay, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you back. I'm going to do whatever I have to do. But at the same time, I hurt a few people and a few things, a few little animals, and I mean, that didn't have to be hurt. But in my mind, you hurt me first, so now I'm going to hurt you.
Wow. When I was reading over this, something that stuck out to me is your grandma finally began to read the room. She finally realized that she had been asking you. You have been, I don't want to use the word lying to her, but you didn't want to tell her everything that was going on because of the fear of something happening to her or she doing something. But she finally began to read the room and realized that this was not working, that you did not need to go back to this house.
Yes.
But she still had to wait a little bit of time before she could leave her job, right?
Right, because she had to work. So the change in my attitude and my behavior, I think, made her realize something is wrong. The fact that it was always me and her, and there was no one that knew me better. So I think with my changes, she knew that, yes, I was keeping things from her. Maybe not lying per se, but I was keeping things from her. She knew I was not telling her the entire story. She knew I was unhappy, and she began to notice in my changes that, you know, this place is no longer for her. So one thing that I will forever be grateful for is that, you know, she said, she realized, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to take care of my granddaughter. Even though I wasn't telling her the truth, she knew something was wrong, and she knew that it stemmed out of me being at that house. And she did quit her job. She began another type of work where she could include me. And it was beneficial. I think things were easier at that time, right? She didn't have to worry about bills like we do. We can't just say, hey, I'm going to quit my job tomorrow. Her house was paid for. My grandfather took care of things, So for her to change her job in order to take care of me wasn't a big thing, but she did have to give that couple days, before they could find somebody to replace her. And a lot of things happened within those couple days.
Woo, yes. And because your grandmom didn't know not to do this, but because she made the announcement that you were going to be, not be coming back, that you only had, I think, about a week left. Because she made that announcement, your abuser began to up the ante. He really wanted to go in for the kill because he knew you didn't have long to be there. And I know we're trying to keep this as clean as possible, but we still got to get out what happened in so many words. And we know that there was some molestations that went on. There was an assault that happened. And we won't go into details about it, but this person was a very bad person, right? And they did you wrong. And we know things now not to say that your grandma did not know back then. And so you don't make those type of announcements because, of course, then that person really, like I said, went right into full action at that point, really getting real ugly with the wife, with you. Things just really spiraled out of control. But I'm so happy that it ended well, if that's even a good enough term to say, but it did end well in terms of you were able to get away. You were able to fight back at the end, and you were able to end that part, that chapter of your life, and move on with your life. So we are happy about that part.
Yeah, and it's scary when you really think about it because everything that happened within that 1 week span, right? Everything was so incredibly confusing, but at the same time, it, like you said, it revved up. It revved up so much. And to be able, as an adult, to be able to have ended it within that time frame is, I think that's where the strength comes in, and the survival kicks in because, unfortunately, you have children that have to endure this type of behavior for months, years. And, I guess I was blessed that I had and I found the strength to stop it within a short period of time, even though the damage had already been done. But it could have been worse. And I think that power, that mentality of I'm going to stop this without getting my grandmom involved, I think I grabbed that from her power, from her strength. Even though I never told her, she showed me how to be strong. And for that, I have to thank her for it.
Right. I love that. I love the relationship that you had with your grandmother. But you did say something in the book. You said that you never got a chance to stay there for the summers again. Did I read that correctly? After you left, when this was all over?
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
So, I would spend every summer with her in Puerto Rico. My mother would put me on a plane, and I would go with the stewardess, and she would pick me up. I would spend the entire summer, and then I would come back. At that time, I was living in New York, and I would go back to my mother, go to school, whatever. But this time was different. I don't know how, but I knew that I was never going to go back. I knew I was going to be, with my grandmother. I knew that. But this time, for some reason, I knew that it was going to be the last time that I went to Puerto Rico as a child with my grandmother. And for the first time, I felt okay leaving. And that scared me. But all that to say that I never went back, but she came to us. And that's in book 2 as far as the reasons why she came to New York to live with us. And I still never told her. It'll be 5 years, 4 or 5. I try to not count that she has been gone, and I never told her. I never wanted her to feel as though it was her fault. I never wanted her to feel as though she failed me, because she really didn't. She did not. She gave me the strength to do the things that I did.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that maybe your grandma suspected that something happened, feeling like, she knew the type of Mrs. Carmen, do you think she knew she was being abused, or she just thought that her husband was just a loser, for lack of better words?
Well, from what I remember, her husband, Miss Carmen's husband, was never around. He was always working. So towards the end, to have him all of a sudden pop up and spend more time at home, and then whatever happens between him and his wife, behind closed doors, I don't think nobody ever knew. Okay. But all of a sudden, she has bruises. All of a sudden, she's making up excuses of things that I did because I was lazy, or I didn't want to go to the bathroom, or, which my grandmother's like, no, this is not my granddaughter. Something is happening. She's not telling me what it is, but I know something is happening. And did she have an idea? Maybe. But I don't think she thought it was what happened. Because if she knew that, I don't think there'd be any more babies.
Got you. Well, I want to read something just so that we make sure that the Thriver Nation, our listeners, understand what we're talking about here. We are talking about a form of child abuse, and we know that there are many different forms of child abuse. There's, of course, physical abuse, which is when the physical child abuse occurs when a child is purposely physically injured or put at risk of harm by another person. There is emotional abuse, which is emotional child abuse, injuring a child's self-esteem or emotional well-being. It includes verbal and emotional assault, such as continually belittling or berating a child, as well as isolating, ignoring, or rejecting the child. There is medical abuse, which is when someone gives false information about the illness in the child that requires medical attention, putting the child at risk of injury and unnecessary medical care. There is neglect, which is child neglect, the failure to provide adequate food, shelter, affection, supervision, education, or dental and medical care. And then there is sexual abuse, which is what we are talking about tonight. Sexual child abuse is any sexual activity with a child, such as fondling, intercourse, exploitation, or exposure, oral contact, genitalia contact, or exposure to child pornography. And so these are the things I want people to understand. Child abuse is when there's any intentional harm or mistreatment to a child under 18 years old. This is when we consider it to be child abuse. And it will take on many forms, all of these different forms that I just talked about. So what we have to do as adults is we have to make our children feel safe. They have to be able to feel safe and comfortable enough to speak to us. When we say, I didn't tell because I thought my mom or my dad or my grandma or granddad or whomever would hurt this person and be taken away from me, right? As adults, we have got to get to a place, and I know it's hard. This is easier said than done, but it has to be done. We've got to get to a place where we have self-control enough that we don't just go off hurting and killing these people who are doing things to our children, because then the child then loses us. And when they feel like they're going to lose us, they are not going to tell. And then there is where the perpetrator, abusers, all of the different names we give them, they get away with stuff because the child does not feel safe enough to tell because they think the adult is going to hurt them, right? I'm not protecting the abuser. I'm protecting my loved one. But it has to get to a place where we have to, we got to get to that self-control part, right?
Absolutely. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult because as a parent, the first, your children may not tell you because your first, your first reaction is to go off, to protect your child at any means needed, right? Any means necessary. But at the same time, you have to listen to your children. And when I say listen, I don't mean only with what they tell you, but how they're acting, any changes in behavior and attitude, body language, fears that they didn't have before. As a parent, as an adult, you have to question your children. You have to know them. You have to realize that sometimes things are wrong, and it's not that they're acting out just because they're acting out. Oh, there's the terrible twos, or it's the it's 5, he's 6, and they have attitudes now. They're getting their own personality. No, sometimes you have to listen. Why all of a sudden this child started breaking things? Why all of a sudden this child is fighting with me when they never did? Sometimes you have to get deeper and not just go off because the child is going to say, oh, I'm going to lose my parent. And, and that's only a little bit because sometimes the parent is something to reckon with, and that's a whole totally different discussion. But
yes.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, and I think it's very important that we say tonight that most of the times when children are there's molestation or sexual assault in children, most of the time it's someone they know. Very rarely is it a stranger. It is sometimes it's even a parent. Unfortunately, sometimes it's a family member, grandparent, aunt, uncle, cousins, siblings. It can be any of those. A close neighbor who is a close friend of the family. It's normally someone that child knows. And so we have to be, let's be more mindful of that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Because
Go ahead.
For continuous abuse, there has to be a level of opportunity. There has to be a level of trust, because, this is a continuous thing. Like we said earlier, it could be weeks, months, years. And some parents, they trust this person, spend time with your grandfather or your uncle. And I'm not just saying men, please, no, there are some women as well. There's your auntie, yes. There's your cousin. There, you're spending time with these family members or my best friend. And there's a level of opportunity where, when it comes from a stranger, that stranger may have a one-time chance opportunity of doing something, but it may not be continuous because they're not there. And, sometimes you trust people, whether it's family, friends, or whoever, and you have to pay attention because you don't know who's hurting your children.
Exactly. I love that you wrote this book in the pandemic. I don't know if you started it right before the pandemic, but I know that you did this while we were in the pandemic. And the reason why I say I love that you did it during that time is because stories like this need to get out. Because as we know, many people, the world, told us to stay home and stay safe at home from the coronavirus, COVID-19, all of those different things. But those who were being abused were not safe at home. They actually became trapped in the homes with their abusers. And so a book like this is great to have been written because children actually need to read this book. Now, I don't know what's your age limit. You're going to have to tell that for yourself. But there are some maybe some teens that this has happened to. We know that there are adult child abuse survivors out here, I being one, you being one. And so we need to read things like this because we need to know that there was nothing wrong with us. We need to make sure that we don't have victim shame and victim blaming on ourselves because we didn't do anything to deserve this. As we read in the book, you did nothing to deserve the things that happened to you, but they happened. And so I'm very happy that you wrote this book, and people really need to get this book. Make sure I want you to tell them how they can get this book. I know you have a chapter. You have a book 2, you have a book 3, you have a book 4. I am excited about all of them. I can't wait for them to come out because I am just hanging on the end of the book, waiting for the next part to come. This is something that needs to be told. We cannot get away from it. We cannot ignore that children are being abused in all types of ways. So thank you. Again, I'm sorry you went through it, but I say thank you for having the courage to write about it, to put it on paper, and for others that will be able to read this and they will get healing from this. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. So this, when you said, regarding writing it, I have started this book for years. As a teenager, I would start writing it, and then I would, throw it away. I would put it in my diary, and then I would, rip out the pages, throw it away. And I think the reason was because my grandmother was still alive. So she passed away 2007, 2018, before the pandemic. But during the pandemic, so I'm home. I'm working from home. We're not going anywhere. And I just, I started to write, and I was like, I'm throwing this away. I don't know. Sometimes you just think, and, bad things just pop up into your mind. And, I was talking to my husband, and I have to give him the credit for me to have written and published the book. Not only written a draft and threw it in the trash. So, I'm writing, I'm talking to him, and he said, listen, just Go ahead and do it. This is a dream that you wanted to do for years. Go ahead, write it, put it out there. And I said, okay. So I wrote it, revised it I don't know how many times, and started researching and doing the publishing thing. And I decided to self-publish. And I said, my husband said, I will support you in anything. Just go ahead and do it. You have nothing to lose. Just do it. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to write it under a pen name. I'm going to use Omira. No one knows me. No one knows Omira. I'm going to do it. So one thing led to another where I didn't want anybody to know me and feel sorry for me when they read this book. I didn't want any pity from anyone. I didn't want any, gossip or talk and it was like, okay, I'm throwing it out there under Omira. That's it. No one's going to know. I'm not going to market. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to put it out there. And it has been totally different. I've had coworkers, friends, family that, of course they know who I am, but they never knew this part of me. And I didn't get the pity. I didn't get the God, If anything, I got support. I got a lot of this happened to me too. And that right there, that right there hit me. It's like, okay, my ultimate goal is to help. This short story, this first book I should have told. Everyone here in this book is dead. So I was able to use, let's say names, right, from what I remember. There's a lot of things that I remember, but I do not remember names. I remember the activity. I remember the action. I remember the places with so much detail, but there were a lot of names that escaped me. So, some of the things I made up and some are real. So to me, this short story was all I was going to put out there. And again, pandemic, I'm home, and I just kept on writing. And I started book 2, and I wasn't going to put it out there, but I started book 2, changed names around, and added a little bit of fiction, right? Because I don't want anybody to read it and say, oh, my God, is she talking about me?
Right.
We don't want and then, we're still stuck in the house, so I called the publisher, and I said, hey, what you think about this one? Send it over. They approved it, and I'm shocked. So, okay, there goes book 2. Book 2 is actually a teenage a preteen age, right? My preteen age, and that's what I did tell. So the first one I didn't tell. The second time I did tell. So that book is about different types of abuses, but also I told you. So now what are you going to do about it? You're the adult. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do about it? And I'm not talking about my grandmother, but, I told.
Yeah.
So that's what book 2 is about. And then book 3 is, because I kept writing. So then book 3 is called After I Told, which is like a compilation of, things that happened after I told somebody, whether they believed me or not, whether they helped me or not, what was done, what was not done. So that one is more of my true teenage ages, right? So I have book 1, the age of 5, book 2, preteens, book 3, teens. And it's different people, different actions, different things. Book 2 will be out in July. Book 3 will be out maybe December or January. And due to the pandemic, right, Book 1 was delayed so long, like maybe 5-6 months. So, but I think it's a blessing in disguise because, like you said, you read 1, and in a few months you're going to have 2, and then in another 6 or 7 months you'll have 3. So, hopefully the interest will continue. And for Book 2 and Book 3, I added more fiction, like I said, because it's more recent, and it's so much different abuse. I would have to say that there were things that I had to incorporate into the book to make it bigger, to let people understand this is big, different types of things that happen to people, not only children, but also adults.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. I told you when we talked offline, I said this hour is going to go so fast. And here we are.
You did.
We're at
You
the end. I told you. And we have so much. I have to bring you back. I would love to bring you back. I think that this is a topic that needs to be talked about some more. You're saying that the book 2 will be out in the summer, so we certainly will get you back on here. We'll talk about Book 2. We'll talk about some other things, some ways to help. I love that what you're doing. Again, I told you what I saw. I didn't see a person that I should pity, but I saw a person of strength and resilience. And that is what you are doing as an adult. And so, again, we thank you. I am going to give out a couple of hotline numbers because we have talked about some really hard topics tonight. And so the National Sexual Assault Hotline is 1-800-656-HOPE. And the 4 numbers for HOPE are 4673. Whichever one is easier for you to remember, 1-800-656-HOPE or 1-800-656-4673. And the domestic violence number, which is a 24/7 number, 1-800-799-7233, 1-800-799-7233. Oh, thank you so much for being here. Omira, I have to make sure that I say your name correctly. I appreciate you, and I'm sure all of the Thriver Nation who is listening to you tonight appreciates you as well, appreciates your courage, your resilience. We thank you again and again and again. I can't tell you enough. Any final thoughts? We've got a couple of minutes here. Any final thoughts that you would like to give to the Thriver Nation?
Yes. First of all, thank you for having me. It's been a great experience, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again. I think for my final thoughts, and this applies to children, teens, adults, whoever, you have to learn. I already said about the parents, listening to their children, but also you have to learn how to forgive yourself. You have to realize that you didn't do anything wrong, that you didn't deserve that behavior. As hard as it is, you have to try not to dwell on, what you could have done differently or what you could have changed or, regret. You have to try to move forward as hard as it is. It's so difficult. But forgive yourself. It's not your fault. It's very hard to be a survivor. But I, for one, I'm glad that I am a survivor. I see myself as that strength. I'm still mischievous. I'm still mischievous. That never went away. But that could have just been my personality. And real quick, so I do have my website, which is OmiraIshouldHaveTold.com. And pretty soon I will be putting more information on book 2 out there. You could buy book 1 there, or you could buy it at Amazon or any bookstore. You know, even if they don't have it, you could request it and they'll order it for you. But that's usually where I do my ideas. I do little blogs out there. I send little emails out to my mailing list, and I put information of things coming up. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. I mean this is great. This is great, and this is just the beginning, Lady Michelle. This is the beginning.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I will make sure that all of the information is up on our YouTube page and our social media pages as well. Oh, wow. It's been an amazing night. I want to thank all of my Thriver Nation for tuning in again to be with us. You all know to make sure you go to our YouTube page, Speak Your Piece with Lady Michelle, or you can go on Lady Michelle Speaks. Both of them, you will be able to find us. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification button so that you don't miss any of our posts. I'm going to leave my final thoughts. You know, my final thoughts are always to be kind. Be kind. I know we always say be kind to one another, but what do I say? I say be kind to yourself. Ever forget that you are no longer a victim. You are more than a survivor. You are a thriver. Make sure you tune in next week. Of course, we have another outstanding guest because all of our guests are outstanding here. We have the best guests here, and so make sure that you tune in. I definitely want to thank everyone who was a part of this show. Our amazing producer, we did not get a chance to thank her in the beginning because of all of the things that were going on, but we certainly do not want to forget to thank our producer, Kimmy Kim, for her amazing things that she does behind the scenes. We love her so much. She is the founder of the Elation family, which we are a part of, Elation Magazine, Elation Radio, Beauty to Ashes, Ashes to Beauty. I always get it twisted, but we come on every Friday night on Clubhouse. Be sure to join us on that as well. And just continue to listen to all of the amazing podcasters, I think that's the word to say, who come on the Elation Radio. They are all amazing. We have great information for you. We love you all. We want to make sure that we're getting all the information out to everyone. We're going to get ready to get out of here. To all my thrivers, I just want to remind you, when you love yourself, you are healed. When you are healed, you are loved. Thank you again, Elmira. We look forward to seeing you and the great things that you're doing, and we certainly look forward to having you back on our show in the future.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We're going to get ready to get on out of here. You know, we have a great theme song that we get out of here, too. We love you all. Have a great night, everybody. Mwah. Love you all.
Pick your head up. Get up. It's only right. Take back your life. Pick your head up. Get up. Take back your life. And come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me.